Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the beautiful Oxnard College Performing Arts Auditorium. Buenas noches y bienvenidos a todos a nuestro propio Palacio de Bellas Artes aquí de Oxnard College. We have a very special Estoy disponible para quinceañeras. I want to thank a lot of the folks who helped make this event possible this evening, starting with our Ventura County Community College District Board of Trustees. If they would please stand, Arturo Hernandez. And don't talk to each other while you're here, please. We have more than three of you here. Bernardo Perez, and I think I saw Dr. Steve Blum here as well. So thank you for coming. Representing the Oxnard College Foundation Board of Directors is Irma Lopez here. Present. Thank you, Irma. And well represented the Oxnard College Administration, also Dr. Oscar Cobian, Vice President. And Dr. Mike Bush. There's Dr. Mike Bush in there. So thank you for joining us on this special evening. Our host for this evening, as we know, is an acclaimed writer, producer, director, Mr. Rick Najera. And Rick has a special honor this evening as well. So Rick, come on out.
Always from LA, and I go to the farms, coming to Oxnard. It's like the most wonderful experience for me. I tell you, I so want to go out and grab those strawberries. I know I can't. Just one day, I just want to. Could I grab it quick and run back in the car? Go for it, thank you. I'm going to say that when they're taking me away. He said, this night is a very special night for me. One is, first of all, two of my cousins are married to Cesar Chavez's daughters. Liz Chavez's cousins, these are all family. And growing up, I had a chance of meeting Cesar Chavez and working with him. And I was the Hollywood guy. They would joke I was the guy doing Hollywood. And one day there was a big event, Cesar Chavez was going to speak, and they asked me to be the host. They said, go up and just be a host. I said, well, I'm really kind of more comedy. I don't think I'm that. So I said, all right, I'll try. So I go there, and there's Cesar Chavez. And he's speaking, and I go up to introduce Cesar Chavez, and this is how I did it. I said, ladies and gentlemen, it's such a great honor to be here to introduce Cesar Chavez. What an incredible boxer and fighter he is. Oh, you mean the great guy? Oh, okay. That was my joke. And he started laughing really loud, and I said, well, they've always told me about it, he had a great sense of humor. And it's funny because seeing Dolores here is great for me because he's family. And I think what I love about Latino thought makers in this community, being in Oxnard, is we're a community, but we're also a family. Oxnard College is open for this whole community and wants to support especially all the people here, and the Latinos particularly, because it's 70% Latino Oxnard. And that's the kind of, how well we educate Latinos versus incarcerate them will decide all our future in America. Shall we start with the show? Dolores Huerta is a labor legend and civil rights activist who founded the Dolores Huerta Foundation, co-founded the National Farmers Association, which later became the United Farm Workers. Ms. Huerta has received numerous awards for community service and advocacy for workers, immigrants, and women's rights. Among the awards are the United States Presidential Medal of Freedom, the Eleanor Roosevelt Award for Human Rights, the Eugene V. Debs Foundation Outstanding American Award, and the Orden Mexicana de la Guía Azteca, the Mexican Order of the Aztec Eagle Award. When I get my Eagle Award, I quit the business that day. That is an honor. It's amazing. And she has 9 honorary doctorates from universities throughout the United States. This is a woman I truly respect. She's a woman, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to someone that I've seen all my life, have admired from the day I met her, and still stay in awe of her compassion and her work for the community. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor, Dolores Huerta. And there's going to be
Sorry,
surprise. What is it, Art?
you know, we kind of improvise sometimes, and sometimes things just happen. I'm sorry, we have to interrupt the show. We have a little surprise.
Cool.
So if you'll bear with us for a moment, we'll work out the details.
On behalf of the Enacted Center, Dolores, as one of the most iconic and most important songs that Cesar always has for every meeting was de Dolores Soto. De parte de nosotros, para ti y todos los que están aquí. Si quieres, canten con nosotros. Huerta, who wrote a song that iconically talks about one of the most important dichos given in the huelga during the 60s, and that was done by our famous and most beloved person, Dolores Huerta, que les dijo a los hombres que estaban quejando, if the story is right, ¡ya, sí se puede! ¡Cállense! ¡Ya, sí se puede!
one more song?
As they're making their exit, I just want to say that the Mariachi Águilas de Oxnard was founded in 2005. They've been around since 2005, founded by Juan Carlos Osuna. This ensemble is composed of young, talented musicians, all proudly from Oxnard, California. Last week, they packed this very stage for the rendering of the performance called Ay Chihuahua, a mariachi musical. Many of them made their acting debuts. So thank you very much, Mariachi Águilas de Oxnard. The young people you saw are from the Inlaquech Cultural Arts Center, which was founded in 1993 by Javier Gomez as an after-school. An after-school cultural enrichment program offering free cultural workshops in dance, music, visual arts, and drama. Mr. Gomez is a cultural arts advocate and activist promoting culture and equality among the arts. So Mr. Gomez and the students were also featured in Ay Chihuahua. So thank them very much for coming.
No party like the Latino party. What I love about this.
I don't think that Dolores thought I was worth the trouble until I got Huntington Hartford to pick at the A&P, which of course got press because the heir to the A&P fortune was boycotting the A&P. After that, we became partners.
My mother was raised a Catholic and very traditional, and prior to going to New York City, she really didn't speak of feminism.
I was in New York when the feminist movement was being born, but my mind was focused on getting all of those women at those conventions to support the farm workers.
There was a time when rarely could you discover women of color who would identify as feminists. because it was assumed to be a question simply of gender. And if it was a question simply of gender, that gender was white.
Wow, great. You are definitely an iconic figure. We've been on stage together a few times. Our third time, and I remember being backstage with you, and you said, "I think you're related to me." You told me that I was related to you, and we started going over our family. And growing up as a kid, any Mexican who came to my house, I thought was my cousin for sure. Did anyone else feel that way? Because parents, oh, it's your compadre, it's your comadre, and all of a sudden it's like I have the most amazing family. Every Mexican's related to me. But we actually talked about this. One of my cousins, David Villarino Gonzalez, was very involved in the UFW back in the day, and he had just such great things to say about you and what you did. Imagine, take me back to when you were a child. You're in Dawson, New Mexico. And you're in New Mexico, and your mother runs a hotel.
Well, that was actually in Stockton.
Stockton? Okay, Stockton.
We left New Mexico when my mother divorced my father and left to California.
Yeah. At this hotel in Stockton, she rented out rooms to migrant farm workers?
Right.
And all that. Is that where you started getting your compassion and understanding?
Well, there was two things. I think my mother was, she was very Católica, she believed in the saints of St. Francis, the devotee of St. Francis Xavier, and she always said that when we were little, she would tell us, if you see someone that needs help, you have to help them. If there's anybody that you can help, you have to do it, but you can't take any reward for that, or take any kind of compensation, because that takes away the grace of what you're doing. And so we kind of grew up with that, and so my mother was a very charitable woman. In our hotel, we had a lot of people that were sometimes disabled. I remember one time one young man came, and he had come from Kansas, and he didn't know anybody. And he said, well, people told me to come to your hotel. He told my mother. So she said, okay. And so she let him stay there until he got a job. He got on his feet. He turned out to be a very successful educator in Stockton, California. But that was the way she was.
And she was a big part of your inspiration. You saw a strong woman growing up.
And the other thing was, I was a Girl Scout. There's Girl Scouts in the house. Girl Scout was very important for me growing up. I was a Girl Scout from the time I was 8 till the time I was 18 years old. For 10 years I was a Girl Scout. Well, it was great because when you're a Girl Scout, you learn how to speak in public, you learn how to do all different kinds of crafts. We used to sing at the hospitals, when people were sick. We would make all kinds of bibs for babies and all kinds of different crafts and things. So, and then some of my girlfriends were pachucas, and I got them in the Girl Scouts.
Really?
And it was great. We all went camping into the mountains, and my pachuca Chicana girlfriends, they made tortillas for everybody, so they were
Now, in Girl Scouts, if I recall right, they have a badge in your honor.
Yes, they do. The Si Se Puede.
The Si Se Puede.
Si Se Puede badge, right. And they have to do a curriculum to talk not only about farm workers, but about all immigrants.
Yeah.
And they have to talk about, they have to learn about women, about women's rights. And if they can follow all of that curriculum, then they get the badge, the Si Se Puede badge.
Is there any Girl Scouts here that got the badge? Anyone?
They're working on it.
They're working on it, good. All right, next Latino club just have that badge ready. I mean, you should be pretty inspired. So it was there. So you see your mother. She's working hard. She's a woman in charge. She's doing all this. I mean, at that time that was pretty amazing. She had that kind of business, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. And my mother was actually, my grandmother died when my mother she was just 5 years old. And so my mother was raised by my aunt and my grandpa. And so she had to learn how to do everything by herself. But she was a very wonderful person, had a very good business sense, She was a fabulous cook. And before she had the restaurant, before she had the hotel, she actually had a restaurant. But so she could do many things.
Everything. So, I mean, because a big part of your work has always been about women's rights, also LGBTQ and all the other things. But I've noticed a pattern of really being there to support the women and make sure the woman's voice is heard. which I think is so admirable in what you've done in just your entire career. I mean, is there ever a moment where you look and you go, you think of that girl in Stockton, California, and all the things you've seen in all your lifetime? Did you ever imagine it was ever going to be like this?
Not really. I think, and I can say this for Cesar and for Helen, for his widow.
Yeah.
And I wanted to say a word about her because Helen doesn't get a lot of publicity. And I guess she did in the movie, the Cesar Chavez movie. But Helen was very, very strong.
Yeah.
And in fact, I always like to say that Caesar was only afraid of two beings, God and Helen. And he never would have been able to do what he did without her support and, her strength behind him.
Did she pretty much start the union? I mean, in terms of the credit union, the credit union.
Yeah, actually, when we started the union, then we wanted to have a credit union.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember we were in Caesar's house, we were having our board meeting, our board that we put together when we started the United Farm Workers. And we said, well, we've got to get somebody to run the credit union. We wanted this is the first credit union for farmers in the whole United States of America. The very, very first one. And so we thought, well, who's good with numbers and who has a good handwriting? And Caesar said, Helen. And Helen was in the kitchen, she was washing the dishes. And so we made a motion, and somebody seconded the motion. Well, now we'll have Helen Chavez. And she was in the kitchen yelling, no, no. Yes. But she took the job, and she did an incredible job. And after Caesar passed away, we didn't have ATMs and all that the people need for the bank, so we merged with another credit union. But when we merged, we had lent $11 million to farm workers of their own money.
$11 million.
$11 million.
The lesson I see in that is a community banding together and creating something special like that. I mean, that is always the answer. And what's so great about you and Caesar is that how, like I told that story early on when I was at this event for Caesar Chavez, and I was just so touched how he went to every single farm worker there and spent time with them and made them feel like a king. And really all the Hollywood people he was very polite to, but those are the people he loved. And to see that and see such compassion, it was very humbling for me, because working in Hollywood, you don't see that too often. But to watch a man who gave his life, and what you've done to give your life, and continue giving your life to your community, but I think also the greater good. I mean, isn't that a big part of it?
Yes, of course, because we have to go out there and we have to teach people that they have the power, that they can organize, that they can come together, that they can make a difference. And people would ask us all the time, well, how do you organize a farm workers? They're poor, they don't speak English, they don't have any money. How can you possibly organize them? And our answer was always, because we tell the people that we are organizing, you've got the power, but it's in your person.
Mm-hmm.
It's in your person. But you can't do anything by yourself. You've got to get together with other people. We're working together. This is how we make the change. You've got to take direct action, and it's got to be non-violent action. You can't do it with violence. And the man who we just saw walk across the stage a little while ago, his name is Marcos Munoz, and he was one of the original Latino strikers. Marcos reminded I say this, but Marcos actually could not read and write the English language, right? And so when we were going out to the boycott, this is after the big strike, and we were all getting arrested, and we knew that we couldn't win through the strike, they kept putting us in jail. So that's when we sent people out to go to the boycott. And so when Caesar was asking people where they wanted to go, and he was writing the names on the board, right? And then, so Marcos volunteered to go on the boycott. But he thought he was going to Barstow, but he ended up going to Boston.
No difference.
So he was very surprised when he got to Boston, and it was very, very cold. And here he is, and I've told the story many times, because it really shows that the power of people. So Marcos ends up in Boston. What do you have in Boston? Harvard University, you've got Yale University, Boston University, Brandeis, all of these great, and Cambridge, all these great universities. And here is a farm worker who can't read or write. And you know what? Marcos organized all of those people from Harvard and Yale and all these people to do his picketing, to write his leaflets. He was the first one to get his city clean of rapes, okay? That's a good organization.
The dedication at that time was amazing. I know my own cousin, David Gonzalez.
Well, in fact, David worked with Marcos.
Yeah, no, because he told me about going to Boston and work. They had to call him up to remind him to cash his check. Because they got a check for $5, I think, a week or something like that. And he forgot to cash his check. And I'm like, hey, it's going to throw our banking off. Cash your $5 a week check, please. He was too busy to cash his check. That's the amount of dedication that I saw in people. And you know, that kind of work, going to Boston like that. Also what's great is you and Caesar both believe, really, like you said, the power's in you. The power's in you. And I know Caesar did a thing where he was, at one point he was organizing, but he wanted people to do the contracts, you know, to really do this. And they didn't have anyone, so he started training people to negotiate. And so that's what I think is amazing, to put the power on, to give the power to other people, to empower them. That's what you've done. So
well, that's what organizing is about. Organizing is about teaching other people that they have power and that they can make the difference. And also for people to understand that if we don't, if we don't stand up, if we don't engage, if we don't make those changes, it's never going to change. We can't wait for somebody to come and do it for us. We've got to understand that we've got to do it for ourselves. And I think that we have seen that manifested. If we think of course, the farm worker movement, the dreamers, we've seen all the protests that have happened recently. So I think people are catching on to that. But also when we think about marching is good and protests are good, but you've got to come back to basic organizing. Something that will continue after the march is over and after the protest is over. So that's very important. That we have to build organization and always keep bringing in new people.
it's the day-to-day.
The day-to-day,
It's setting up
absolutely.
that day-to-day. It's not the exciting part. It's like people look at Hollywood.
Right.
It's the red carpet looks exciting, but the rest of the stuff is just day-to-day. What you do to live and survive and build a future for yourself. I think that's important. I mean, what you've also done, which is great, is you've given a voice to people that don't have a voice. But at the same time, you also gave them a chance to speak for themselves.
I was going to say, actually what you're doing is you're giving them, the power to use their own voice. And that's how the leadership develops. You know, not by you doing something for people, but for showing them how they can do it for themselves.
I love that because you're saying with, you know, the cavalry's not coming. You're the cavalry. So that's a good thing for anyone to know. Just think, you're the cavalry. You're the solution. And which I think is really so good what you're doing. Take me back to time because you have seen violence. You were at the assassination of Robert Kennedy. Can you tell me what that was like at that time, to have been a part of even that era, to watch that?
Well, we saw a lot of violence in the strike. I mean, when the strike first broke out, the Filipinos were the first ones that went out on strike, and then we had to support them. And there was a lot of violence against the Filipinos. Some of them were beaten up by the growers, and they lived in the labor camps. They turned off the gas, they turned off the water, they turned off the lights, so that they couldn't even cook for themselves. And many of them, these labor camps were way outside of town. So we saw that violence against them, and then violence against some of the strikers. And then, of course, we had people in the farm movement that were killed. Yeah. And actually, our first martyr was a young Jewish girl named Anne Freeman. She was killed in Boston. When she was from Boston, she was killed in Florida in a strike there. There was a strike in the sugarcane fields. And there were African American workers, Jamaican, Mexican workers, and the truck ran her down and killed her on that picket line. And our second martyr was a young Arab named Najee Afada, and he was killed in Lamont, California by a Shur who hit him in the back of the neck with a big flashlight. He was a very slight person, and then they dragged him along the curbs of the sidewalk, hitting his head, and then he died of a concussion. And he was the second one. Then our third one was Juan de la Cruz, who was actually on the picket line, and a labor contractor came by and shot him in the heart. And then another one, Rufino Contreras, in Imperial Valley, when he went into the field, and the grower, a guy named Cy con, and actually they bought the guns and they bought the bullets for the strike breakers to shoot at the strikers if they came into the field. And so he was met with a hail of almost 80 bullets.
80 bullets.
80 bullets. And then our last one was Rene Lopez, a young 19-year-old farm worker who organized it was a dairy farm there in Carruthers to vote for the union. And they won the election, this is after the law was passed, but we had the right to organize. And after the election, they called Rene over, and he went to the window of the car, and they pulled out a gun and they shot him in the temple. And he was killed instantly. So we've seen all of that violence. But you know, the one great thing about Cesar is that he was so adamant that the union should continue to work without violence.
Mm-hmm.
And he made it, and Marcos, of course, was there with us when he made everybody take a standing vow. And Cesar always said, if we start using violence against the growers or the labor contractors, then we will start using violence against each other.
Yeah.
And there were some movements in other parts during that period of time where people were using violence, and that's exactly what happened. Many of them were killed.
So it was what do you think inspired him so much about nonviolence?
It was Gandhi.
Gandhi.
He read Gandhi, and he really wanted to follow those philosophies of Gandhi. And of course, his fast that he did, the fast that he did his 25-day fast in 1968, one in 1972, and then the 36-day fast for pesticides, So that was Caesar's way. And he didn't call them, people call them hunger strikes. He never called them a hunger strike. He said it was a fast, because he wanted it to be a spiritual offering.
It is. Plus, he always had the Virgin of Guadalupe in front of the marches, and he came from a deeply religious background. You, with your mother, came from a deeply religious background. And in that religious background, St. Francis, all this, it is about helping the poor. It is about compassion. It is about, helping the immigrant coming to the country. All the good things that, we all believe. This current world we're in right now, the current time we see right now, and I'm sure for you, as most of us, it's surprising. How do you feel looking at where you've been and where this country is now? Where do you think it's going?
Well, I think that we have some challenging times, but I like to remind people, and I know many in the audience here, they went through this back in the 60s and the 70s, and when we did the strikes and we did the boycotts. But we had Nixon as president of the United States.
Yeah, who was under investigation at the time. Why?
Yeah. And he was very much against the farm workers, he was very much against the Great Boycott. We had the Vietnam War, young people were killed, like at Kent State. There was a lot of protesting going on then during that period of time.
And Richard Nixon was against the press too. He didn't like the press.
Yeah, he was like a lot of oppression at that time, But what happened, I think, during that period of time, we had the civil rights movement that was going on with Dr. Martin Luther King. You had the feminist movement going on, where women were starting to get together for what was called the second wave of the feminist movement. Mm-hmm. You had the LGBT movement, the gay movement that was just starting. And you had the environmental movement that was just starting, And of course the Chicano movement that was coming out of that, alive at that time. And what happened, if we look back and then we see all of the things that we gained, in spite of all of the oppression from Richard Nixon and Ronald Reagan and the governor of California, and then
Wilson,
we came out a lot stronger. And I think the same thing is going to happen now, because I think everybody realizes that each one of us has to do something. We can't sit back and just moan and be in despair. We've got to, all of us have to get engaged, and especially we've got to get people out to vote.